Okay, folks, we're about to get started now. I'd like to welcome everybody. If you all could mute your microphones if you're calling in from a computer or a tablet device, or if you have a telephone, perhaps you can press the mute button on your phone. We're using GoToMeeting today, which is actually what our company uses for our internal meetings. And this was put together a little hastily about a week and a half ago to help the schools that have been calling us to get a quick solution for their COVID-impacted students. So you'll have to bear with us. So we're going to go ahead and get started now. We're partnering out. I'm Ned Sheeran with Allegheny Educational Systems. First of all, just to introduce myself, and we know a lot of you. I see your names. You're actually customers of ours, and if you don't know us, we're based in the Pittsburgh area, Pennsylvania, and we work with schools and universities all across Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey. Our goal in life has been for 40 years to bring educational solutions to those schools, especially around the areas of career and technical training. And for most of those 40 years, we've been partnering with a company called Amatrol. Amatrol is helping the schools that are trying to get through the remainder of their semester by making their e-learning library available on a very shortened license subscription basis. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So our goal today is to give you a very brief overview of the Amatrol e-learning library. We're going to take some questions, but I'm going to ask you, if you can, to put your questions in the little chat bubble. We'll answer those as we go along. At the same time, we'll see if we can open it up for questions at the very end. We're going to try to keep it short. If anybody has questions that don't get answered, or if you'd like to have a more in-depth demonstration for you and your staff, we're going to have our contact information up at the end of the session here this afternoon, and we'll be happy to work with you individually. We can actually set up a demonstration for you and your staff at your school. So please do use that chat bubble. Once we get presenting, I'll be monitoring those and see if we can't answer questions on the fly. And again, I appreciate you all being patient with us as you have to mute to stay on the track. So to get started here, Amatrol, as many of you may know, Amatrol is maybe the leading industrial training supplier in this country, if not the world. They're located in Jeffersonville, Indiana. They started in the 1960s doing industrial training or industrial solutions. In the 1980s, they got into education and training. In Jeffersonville, they started in a small building. They got up to an 80,000 square foot building, and most recently expanded to 122,000 square feet of space to develop equipment. And they also have their own e-learning and content library creation team. Many of you who do know Amatrol know them as the folks that create the big blue shiny equipment that's in your electrical labs, your advanced manufacturing labs. It might be in some of your heavy equipment laboratories. It's also in your electronics laboratories. In addition to creating equipment, however, they also write content. They write curriculum, and they've got some of the best online learning curriculum available today. It was designed to be used along with their hands-on training devices, but many of the activities that they've created and the lessons that they've created actually use virtual simulations. So in cases where a student isn't in the laboratory or is working from home, they can use virtual simulations of a lot of the equipment that Amatrol has created. So what we're going to talk about today is that very thing, the virtual equipment and the e-learning content that's in the Amatrol library. The library is huge. There's thousands of content hours in their library. It's been collected over the years, and it's constantly updated. The content is organized in program areas. You're looking at a partial list of those program areas, and there are courses in every one of those program areas. Many of these program areas are aligned with certification. So if your school's been working toward an industry recognized certification, a NIMS, MSSC, some of the others, there are actual courses within these categories that are aligned with those certifications. Just as an example, if I pick on electrical, these are some of the titles of the units under the electrical category. And this is a partial list, but every one of these units under that electrical category has dozens of activities with pre-tests and post-tests that the students can complete. Many of them actually have the virtual simulators. So from these courses, we can also design custom courses. We can design a course in HVAC by mixing and matching some of those content areas that you saw in the larger list. Carpentry, for example. A lot of the things that we see in the carpentry programs, from safety and print reading and CAD, are actual e-learning library components in the Amatrol library. Diesel equipment is another example. There's many, and many of the schools that we work with actually put their own courses together by mixing and matching those units. As I said, most of the units have full motion video, or they have multimedia animation. Content is narrated. Students also have assessments that they can work through as they go through the content. And those assessments can be done anytime, anywhere. And the instructors of those classes have access anytime, anywhere to the complete learning management system that Amatrol has created. This is an example of a simple report done for one of the students in a class, and we can drill down deeper on that one student and look at the units that that student's completed, and we can drill down even further and look at the actual quiz results from any one of those units. So what we're going to do now is, I've got John Walters with me. John is the president of Allegheny Educational Systems. He's also one of the most experienced people that I know in this area. So John's going to take over controls now, and let me just make sure we can get him on here. John's going to go ahead and share his screen, and we're going to see a view of the actual content as well as the learning management system.
Can you see that, Ned?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. Can everybody, I'm assuming that everybody can hear me. What I'm going to do first is just to go through, this is your login screen. As many of you know that have this, this is the screen that when you log on as an administrator or instructor, this is the first screen that you come to. And I want to point out a couple of really important things on this screen for those that may have not used this before, or if they're new, especially over here, your help button. This is probably the most important thing that you'll cover in using this LMS is the help button. And it's something that you want to become very familiar with because you're going to need it. Over here, it's your system's requirements. This is also really, really important, and it's covered in that help button too. But as you know, we're doing away with Flash and some other of these older software packages that really don't work with 64-bit high-speed computers anymore. It's being replaced by what's called WebGL, which is right up in here. So all of the Amatrol content is being redeveloped and updated into WebGL. So what I'm going to do is to log in now and go through a little bit of the main screen. Now, over here on your left-hand screen, this is all reporting information, class setting up, building custom courses, managing your activation codes and your users. That's all done here on the left-hand side. And again, as Ned said earlier, when we get to the point where if you look at this and you say later on, boy, I'd like to spend some more time on this, let us know, send us an email, and then I can set up a time to go through this with you individually. Because there's so much in here that it's hard to cover it all in a half-an-hour webinar. Plus, it gets a little bit, it gets just a little winded for everybody. The main content of the e-learning and the multimedia is found right up here in e-learning courses. Now, you've got your main library here, your Ignite, which is a brand new advanced manufacturing curriculum. It's actually a 4-year program for high school that was developed in conjunction with the people at LIFT down in Detroit, Michigan. Then you have the CNC NIMS operator courses for both FANUC controls, Haas controls. Then you have the NIMS industrial technology maintenance. You can see that there are 9 credentials here. And NIMS worked with Amatrol, probably for 3 years on validating these credentials. And then what Amatrol had to do was come back in and write all brand new content, took some old content to match up with the credentials. And if you have time on your own, if you want to look at this again, you can always click on any of these buttons and see what is in the content for any of these credentials. These libraries work very similar to the main library that we're going to explore right now. Again, your courses up here, everything from Industry 4.0 fundamentals. These courses here are also aligned to what we refer to as SACA, the Smart Automation Certification Alliance. SACA has several levels of credentials that can be achieved that are all related to the Industry 4.0 courses. This is new content that Amatrol has worked on for the last couple of years. And as Ned said earlier, you can see it's quite comprehensive. And this is a great 9, 10, 11th grade program. Industry 4.0, you see it's missing course 3. That is a FANUC robotics course. It exists in FANUC format right now, and they're working with Amatrol to create the course number 3, which is FANUC in robot operations course. I'm going to open up the electrical here just to preview a few things with you as well. We have in this library what we refer to as virtual courses, and Alan, you were asking about this a little bit earlier, where we have, when you see a course with a V in front, like electric motor control, AC/DC, and 9EC1A, these are virtual courses. And the content that is in this course is identical to the content that's in this course. This is the P7017. This is the portable version of it. The content is identical. So I'm going to open this one up and just show you a little bit of what's in here for motor control and AC/DC electrical systems. Now, this is customizable here. You can have the quiz, the pre-quiz put over here first, then you launch it so that the pre-quiz is mandatory. The students have to go through that. The way that we set up our demo site is that I can just go in and launch the content or the quiz, generate a user quiz, or fetch my skills. But you can set this up as an instructor where they have to go through a pre-quiz first, then they can launch the content, then they go through a wrap-up quiz. The skill PDFs are very important because I'm going to open up electrical measurements to show you what's covered in here. You have your objectives, which you're used to, which is your theory, and then you have your skills, which then applies the theory that you learned earlier. And in this case, it is using an analog voltmeter to measure the voltage point reference to ground. Well, how do we do that? Well, this is a question that comes up all the time. You do have a skill PDF that is downloadable here, as well as within the content of the multimedia. But I'm going to open up the skill PDF here just to give you an idea of what it looks like. And this is something that typically the students, we run into this a lot with adult education, where they might be in the lab only 1 or 2 days a week for maybe only a couple of hours. So they're asked to do the multimedia and the theory online, either at home or at work separately. Then they can print out the skill sheets, come in and do the hands-on work when they're in the lab. So this is the skill sheet for what we used to refer to as lab number 2, measuring electrical circuits. You can see it's to use an analog voltmeter to measure the voltage at a point reference to ground. So to walk the students through this, and the students can fill out the information in here, save this, and then turn it into the instructor. For those that aren't familiar with the multimedia, I'm going to launch this one just briefly to show you what it looks like. Bear with me, it's a little slow today. I think everybody and the brother's on. Now you can see all of the content in here. It's the same exact content from the T7017 tabletop unit to the portable unit in here. And here's where you get into your skill of using an analog voltmeter to measure the voltage, the same skill that we were just looking at with the PDF. You can print your skills from here as well. What a lot of people like to do is why I showed you that print skill PDF ahead of time is that they want to print the skill sheets out so that the students have something to write in when they come in, so that they can start to build a portfolio of knowledge. They'll want the students to keep that information and to take it with them.
Use an analog voltmeter to measure the voltage at a point reference to ground. In this procedure, you will use an analog voltmeter to measure AC and DC voltages. First, you will measure the output voltages available from the T7017 power supply. Then, you will connect a circuit and measure the voltage at different points in the circuit reference to ground. Although the scale indicates DC volts, the meter will actually measure AC or DC volts.
Now you notice in here that I'm not chasing this. I'm going at my own speed. I can rewind this, repeat it. If I want to, I can go back. And of course you can go forward. You can turn the sound off and on here, but you're not chasing it all the time.
Please select simulator or hardware to perform this procedure. Once you have completed one, you may go through the other.
Now this is where, I don't know, those of you that may have not seen this before, but if you don't have this here, and this is the great thing about doing this virtually, especially during a point that we have now when students aren't allowed in the building, we can't have people in groups, but you can still do the activity. So you can come over and click on simulator.
The simulator should appear in a new browser window or tab. When you have finished using the simulator, click on the return button to continue.
And in this activity, you can see this will walk you through, this is the first time it will walk you through step by step of what the activities are. Perform the following substeps to prepare the circuit. And we'll walk you through these graphics. Click the main power supply switch. So up here we can add components. So of course we need to add a power supply. We're going to add, let's say, an AC supply. We're going to put that supply right there. Now we can make that supply typically a little bit bigger. I'm not going to be able to make it any bigger, but we're going to add some additional components. Going to add a lamp, put that lamp down here. Put in a push button switch, we'll put that over here. And the lamp back in. We need an analog meter. Now we're going to add our leads for this. We're going to take it. Turn this thing on, adjust the voltage, push down the button, and see the lamp light. Of course, you can push this up too high and then you can blow the lamp up, but that's not what they want us to do now. They want us to add the leads to go from the meter anyways, you can see how this works. Now, Alan, you were asking about when you do one of these projects, and you can save these files, and we'll go through this later on our own, but you can save this, and the students, you can have the students save it, turn it in, and then you can see whether or not they hook this thing up correctly, because it can be tricky. Now, the same kind of content is available for many of the other programs. If we take a look at, I'm going to close out on the electrical, you can see that we have the virtual for the motor control, the AC/DC, and the electric relay control. Three of the most common products and training programs that we do sell. Now they have it for fluid power as well. So for basic pneumatics, you have a virtual unit, and basic hydraulics. Yeah, you have it in manufacturing process. For your product finishing, production assembly programs, several others that are related to production assembly here. You have it in mechanical systems. You have a unit here in basic mechanical systems. So you have a lot of content available that is virtual, which is
John,
really great to have. Yes, sir.
We have several questions about, is there virtual content in specific areas? One is in CNC, to operate CNC, and the other is virtual for PLC.
Yes. Yes, there are virtual for both of those. And if you'd like, we can take a look at the CNC, which is down here. Would you like to see the FANUC or the Haas? And I'm asking our friend from Drexel if he wants to see the FANUC or the Haas. Not that it really matters. I'll just dive into it here.
Why don't you bring up the what did you do? The FANUC? Yeah, bring up the FANUC for now.
It says it's open there, but I'm not quite sure where it went. There it is. Yeah, this may not be the best place to find this, Ned. I'm going to fix me out of this one and jump back into the other one. I can find it. I'm trying to find that. I was working on it yesterday, and I can't remember exactly which one of these it was in.
Describe the axis movements of a CNC lathe. A CNC lathe has two linear axes, X and Z. Both the X and Z axes control the movement of the tool. Each axis also has a positive, plus, and negative, minus direction of travel. Practice your ability to jog the CNC lathe in the correct direction by pressing each jog key on the panel. Since the CNC operator must manually move these axes during machine setup, it is important to be able to identify the axes of the lathe and which button to push to move each axis in a certain direction. The X-axis creates the forward and backward movement of the tool. The forward movement toward the workpiece is the negative X direction. Backward movement away from the workpiece is the positive X direction. The z-axis creates the side-to-side movement of a tool. Movement to the left is the negative z direction. Movement to the right is the positive z direction. The z-axis allows the tool to travel the length of the workpiece.
Now it's going to want us to hold this down and explore all options, as you can see, going back and forth to control it, just to get a little bit better idea of what your negatives and positives are. Of course, those of you that do know machining know that's a little confusing on a lathe.
Identify the axis movements of a CNC lathe. In this procedure, you will identify the axis movement of a CNC lathe.
Okay, we already went through that one. I'm trying to find, just bear with me a little bit, trying to find the interactive content that does have there's a ton of it in here in CNC, and we may have to set this up and do it again together because I'm not finding really what I'm looking for right now. Lisa, you had a question on relay control. Relay controls and motor controls do have content. There are virtual simulators for both of those. And here, your electric relay control, your virtual unit is right here, right at the very top. And then your motor control, of course, is right in here. Sean, you'd asked about content for more traditional trades like plumbing, carpentry, or cabinet making. We do have some carpentry online materials from a company called VR Sim that will have to get you separately. But yes, there is something available, but not really through what Amatrol has to offer. Most of theirs revolves around electrical and mechanical systems, robotics, and things like that. I'm going to look, somebody had asked for about the virtual PLC units. Here it is right here. Here are your virtual PLC training modules. Here, I'm going to open up this so that you can see the content that's available for these. And if anybody would like, if you want to email Ned or I your email address, we can send you specific content. So you can ask us, I'd like more on PLCs, or I need something mechanical, or I need robotics. Or the other man asked about the CNC, the virtual trainer for the CNC. I can send you this content. So please let us know who it is and what you'd like. Just email back to Ned. He had sent you an email the other day telling you what time and the login. Just reply back to that, and we can get you all the information that you do need. I'm going to launch the PLC motor control one so that you can see this one. And of course, you've got your objectives here, which is your theory, and then you have your skill for each one. I don't know how to run a PLC, but I'm going to get down here and click on this skill. Anyways, we'll take a shot at it.
A PLC program that uses internal output instructions. In this procedure, you will enter a ladder logic program that uses internal output instructions. This will familiarize you with internal memory addresses and their use as addresses on input and output instructions. Select simulator or hardware to perform this procedure. Once you have completed one, you may go through the other.
Lisa, I'm going to address this specifically to you and your question about the PLC simulator. You can see that this trainer that's up there is the portable PLC trainer. They do have those down in the adult education area. So this is in the building, but it's down there. Ted has access to this. But you could use this even without having to have the PLC there, obviously, in front of you. So this is something that you have access to, and then anyone can get access to this. So we're going to click, of course, on the simulator and bring this one up. Now over here on your left-hand side again are your instructions. You can see that there is a link here so that you can print out the step-by-step instructions. And it has links to the graphics of what it is that it wants you to do. Graphic number 2 will come up, etc. And you can also scroll the whole way down as you run through that activity. This is an activity that would probably take someone an hour or so to complete. This is pretty comprehensive, as you can see. But I think in your case, Lisa, starting at the very beginning, yeah, that's something that your students certainly could use. Are any of you using any of this now while you're working from home? Is anybody out there using this?
Yes, John, this is Brian. We are using some of the subscription tools that we've got for a couple contracts that we're working.
Good. That's great to hear. Good. Thanks, Brian. So any questions? If anybody has a question, type it in. I'm going to close this screen out now. Again, just to give you an example of some of that virtual content. Does anybody else have any questions specific to any of the content that is in here? Please type that, or just unmute yourself and ask if there's something you would specifically would like to see.
John, can we do some manual machining? Is that possible? This is Scott.
It's not virtual.
That's not virtual at all?
There's one virtual trainer here, which is called Machine Tools 1. You can see there's content in here for Machine Tools. Let's go ahead and open that up and see what's in here. Bandsaw, drill press,
Okay.
drill press functions. Now let's go up here and let's launch this content.
Is there anything relating to like milling machines or manual lathes at all?
No, no.
Okay.
It deals, they don't deal with, sorry about that. They don't deal with the manual stuff. There is, again, there is content for CNC.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, John, in the interest of time and to be respectful for those that I told in advance we'd only take about a half hour, I think we should wrap up.
Oh, I'm going to drill some holes, doggone it. Got my drill press out, Ned.
Yeah, I watched you with the PLCs and the ladder logic. I think we might have exceeded your level of expertise.
Oh, we exceeded it. We exceeded when I get up in the morning.
As John mentioned, if you have more questions, please feel free to contact him or me. Our email addresses are up there, but as John also said, it's probably easiest to simply reply to the email that you either got or the one that I'm going to be sending out with the recording link. I think I did already mention the special pricing that Amatrol has put together to help schools get through the end of the semester. I'm just going to put it up here on the screen again, just to show you. Look, we have mostly community colleges and universities on with us today, but if you are a secondary career tech center working with 9 through 12 age students, Amatrol does have a special high school prorated e-learning price for one school to get you through the end of June. We can get you set up pretty quickly. If somebody would like to have John work directly with them, again, please get in touch with John or me, and we can work one-on-one with you to get you up and going. We're working also with Amatrol to get things expedited. If somebody has an urgent need to put some online content together for their students, we're able to get it up usually within 1 or 2 days, even if your purchase order hasn't made it to us yet. We know most of you, and we know how schools are working right now, so we know you're good for it. We can also take credit card orders if you've got a dozen students and you're looking for $60 a student and you've got a school credit card or your personal card, we can also do that. So again, please reply back to the email that you get with the link. If you want to send it to any of your other folks, other staff, please feel free to share it. And with that, we thank you very much for attending today. And I want to thank John for being our master presenter.
Thanks, everybody.
You all have a good day.
Take care.
Please stay safe and healthy. We look forward to coming out the other side.